You know Graybar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Graybar does that.
The last few weeks, we've been recording episodes of the show in some very different kinds of circumstances. From last week trying to talk about what the return of Major League Baseball could mean to a few weeks ago talking about the protests and push for societal change in the wake of the death of George Floyd. And this week we come to you with an even different feeling episode of the show before the show, and we felt that called for a different introduction, and didn't really seem like the type of week when we should use our upbeat intro music and all that. So we went a different road, and that was a rendition of Take Me Out to the Ball Game, performed by a guy who I call my uncle. He's not actually related, but he's been my dad's best friend since they were about 14 years old, a blues musician in Lincoln, Nebraska named C.A. Waller. And I emailed him late last night and said, I had this idea. We're recording a show tomorrow and talking about a topic that breaks our hearts, and maybe you could come up with something for us to use as our intro. And he sent me that this morning, and it put me into a puddle of tears when I first listened to it, and that I think are both probably still fighting back right now as we start recording this. But it's a tough one as we welcome you into this week's episode of the show before the show from Minor League Baseball and MyLP.com. My name is Tyler Maughan. Sam Dykstra in New York City. Yesterday came the official word that there will be no Minor League Baseball in 2020. As the season has been canceled. It's something that we, to be honest, expected for quite some time as the breadth and the scope of the COVID-19 pandemic became clearer and clearer, and somehow grossly and unfortunately continues to get worse and get clearer over the last few weeks. But there will not be minor league baseball in 2020, which is something that has never been said in the history of this sport since the National Association of Professional Baseball Clubs was officially founded in 1901. Even in the darkest years of American history over the 20th century, there was always minor league baseball. There were some tough bumps, obviously, in the World Wars and the Spanish influenza epidemic and all of it, but there's never been a season canceled. And so we bring you kind of an unprecedented episode for an unprecedented chapter, and a tough way to have to say hello, but we say hello, and we will now try to parse some of our thoughts for you. So Tyler and Sam, and Sam, not an easy week at all, and something that we've expected, and that did not make it any easier.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome into the show, and hopefully Tyler wasn't breaking any news to you there. If he was,
yeah, that'd be tough.
That's
wait a minute. What's with this sad song?
Yeah. So I'm sure many of you at home are aware of the situation, but obviously the coronavirus epidemic, which continues to get bad, almost worse and worse in certain parts of this country, and certainly as the country on the whole, continues to ravage everywhere. This felt like an inevitability. Officially, minor league baseball said that Major League Baseball couldn't provide minor league baseball with players. A big reason of that being the COVID-19 epidemic. It's just the way the world is right now. It's really unfortunate when you look at that long history of minor league baseball, like you said, Tyler, going back to 1901. But this is something that touches obviously every aspect of our job. We write for the official minor league baseball website. Minor league baseball is our life, and we do that because we love the game. We love what the minors mean, and I'm going to get into that here in just a minute. I wrote some words down that, something like this, I'm talking off the cuff now, but something like this, it's difficult to talk off the cuff because there's so much about minor league baseball that is encapsulated by just this organization. And I don't mean that just the St. Pete office. I mean every league, every player, every employee. There's so much that goes into this, and the fact that there isn't any of that in 2020 is disappointing and upsetting, and unfortunately just the way the world works right now. I think you might hear me say this later on the show, and if I don't, I'll repeat, or I'll say it now, but it felt like a Band-Aid being pulled off. We all knew it needed to happen at some point. We were getting into July. It is now the start of July by the time you're hearing this. There were going to only be 2 months of a minor league season left. We've ripped off the Band-Aid. It smarts. It really hurts right now. At a certain point, it's going to allow us to get better. It's going to allow us to look forward to 2021. Hopefully some of these clubs can now pivot towards trying to find new ways to bring in revenue and new ways to be pillars of their community that they've always been. But yeah, it's a really rough time while we're sitting in it here.
So we don't obviously have a ton of new news outside of that, because that was kind of the last domino to fall. There were going to be extraordinary challenges in putting on any sort of minor league season this year, even if players had been provided from major league clubs. But waiting for that last shoe to drop was agonizing, and I think we also got to exist for a little while in just the kind of haze of, well, what if somehow it all works out? Which, Sam and I are both pretty pragmatic guys. I think we've kind of known since April that it was probably pretty unlikely that was going to work out. But, it's our livelihood. And to be in this spot right now, the most difficult thing, I think, when I think about it, is thinking about all the front office members who are either unemployed now or are furloughed or have been laid off or whatever it is. That's tough. I was working on a series of stories about some of the longest running continually used nicknames in each league, and was emailing with a team. And when first starting the story back in April, or first starting the series, I should say, immediately got an email back with some great resources and talking about getting in touch with somebody to do an interview and yada yada. Didn't get around to that story until a little while later, and by the time I emailed that team back, their media relations person had been furloughed. And those are the difficult things that you start to see, is just this kind of silent drying up of such a vibrant culture that is a minor league front office, and that's happening across the country right now. Obviously, not just in minor league front offices. There are 40 million people unemployed, and to see it in an industry that longtime minor league radio voice John Laser, who's now the voice of Virginia Tech Hokies, I saw Laser post a tweet referring to minor league baseball as the thing we always felt would be by our side. And to not have that this year feels so weird, and just speaks to what we've lost over the last 4 months. And that's a really difficult reality to exist in now, because sports provide us with such a blanket and such a distraction and such a joy in our lives that to have that ripped away is extraordinarily difficult to stomach. and it breaks my heart to think about all the people who are suffering financially and don't have work right now because of this, not just in a minor league baseball context, but everywhere. And it's just, for a while, I think, it sort of feels like, well, as long as we can hold off from having to believe it's real, it's not going to be as bad. And now we've kind of been thrown into the cold reality of that, and that's tremendously difficult to process for those of us who, my first minor league season was 2009. With the exception of one season since then, I've worked in some capacity with or in minor league baseball. And, even the one season that I didn't work with minor league baseball, I was working with the Australian Baseball League. It was their off season, but still was doing that work. And it is so weird to wake up every day and not have baseball and not have the rhythm of, there will be 70 games tonight, and there's a chance that in Lancaster the two teams are going to combine for 42 runs, and there's we might see a no-hitter in the Eastern League tonight because Casey Mize is pitching, or, all those little things. No animals on the field, no weird ejections. It is very strange, and the reality that that's going to be our normal until April of 2021 right now, hopefully, is that's really tough.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure that I don't forget anything. So I'm just gonna. I know I went off the cuff earlier, and was just trying to speak from the heart, but I want to make sure I get to this.
This is where Sam has his scripted remarks, and then I start playing an orchestra to play him off if it goes too long.
Something
this
like
is the
this.
Oscars
Please do.
Now.
Yeah, this is the Oscars now. I have a lot of people to thank. It's almost the opposite of that, but. I don't know. I'll just kind of get through this. I kind of thought about when I was writing this, it was the opposite of LeBron. I remember LeBron was giving a speech before a Lakers game. It might have been after Kobe passed, and then he threw away the speech because he didn't need it. And let's just say he's a stronger man than I am. But I am a writer first, so I wanted to get this stuff down. But what does minor league baseball mean to me? Well, I'm a writer and a reporter first, so I think of the game, like Tyler alluded to there are 160 minor league teams, not counting those that play at the complexes and internationally. So on a Friday night when everyone is plugged in and the people are flowing through the gates, there are 80 games a night. That's 80 first pitches, 80 final outs, 80 opportunities for high quality baseball from coast to coast. That's also 80 opportunities for growth for minor league players dreaming of someday making or even returning to the major leagues. Every game is a step in their journeys of realizing the dreams they had as kids, the dreams many of us had as kids, or if we're still kids, are having right now. And that's every night. I love telling the stories of how these players are growing, what they've added to their fastball, how they're adjusting to seeing more breaking pitches, what they're doing to learn a new position. It's one of the great joys of this job and of following the minor leagues in general, and those are the opportunities we've lost. I'm a fan too. There are few greater pleasures in this world than settling in on a warm, sunny day, knowing 9 innings of mystery and wonder lay ahead. You never lose sight of that, even from the press box or writing about the sport from home. Beyond just the game, people file through the turnstiles for that entertainment factor. They come for the unique theme nights or the wacky hot dogs or the cheap beer, knowing there's nowhere else they could find where all these things intersect. Seriously, the Venn diagram of baseball, Star Wars, and the Nashville Honey Bun Burger is pretty small right there in the middle, and that's where minor league baseball lies. That sense of fun is something we've lost. I'm a citizen, too. I live here in Brooklyn, which you think is a city in itself within the biggest city in the United States. And yet I can't tell you how many Brooklyn Cyclones hats I see walking down the street or through Prospect Park or wherever on any given night. I tell people what I do for a living, and they ask if I've been to MCU Park. I mean, come on, it's not that far on the F train. The same happens with folks at home. They'll bring up the time they went to Pawtucket or the time they brought the kids to that new Duncan Stadium in Hartford, or they'll ask what I think of the move to Worcester. Minor league clubs are pillars of the community. That doesn't stop because there is no baseball being played on the diamond, but that feeling of gathering around in one place, hoping to see 420-foot homers with our neighbors, that's something we've lost too. I'm a friend, too. The minor league baseball community is a big and beautiful one, as Tyler said. It's a minor miracle that clubs pull off dozens of home games a year, in some cases more than 70, planning promotions, selling concessions, broadcasting games, both on the radio and on MILB TV. Now imagine that replicated 160 times over. There's a lot of work done by a lot of good and decent people to make sure baseball touches every corner of this country. A lot of those good and decent people are hurting right now. And in some cases, it's over the loss of the game. In more extreme ones, it's over the loss of their job they love so much. The crucial roles these teams, these families play in our sport is something we've lost. I'm a realist. I know why this cancellation needed to happen. I'm an optimist. I'm hopeful we can return safely next spring. Most of all, I'm a minor league baseball lover, and I'll miss the game that I love. Until then, onwards to 2021.
That is, I'm going to try to get through the rest of this without losing it. I'm going to steal my thoughts because I'm not smart or articulate like Sam, but Bowie Kuhn was in a lot of ways. And this is Ted Haggerty, the phenomenal radio voice of the El Paso Chihuahuas in the AAA Pacific Coast League. We've plugged Ted's minor league stories account at Miners Team Names on Twitter. And Ted posted this yesterday, which was former Major League Commissioner Bowie Kuhn and his thoughts on minor league baseball from Hardball, the education of a baseball commissioner. And he said, quote, "One of the joys of travel for me was the minor league ballparks and people. I always felt that the heart of baseball was in those nostalgia-laden bandboxes and hard-striving people. There was a rich, textured, profound feel of the game in the minors that I found nowhere else, something closer to the game I first knew as a lad in Griffith Stadium and Forbes Field. So I beat my way across the minors from the Carolinas to Oregon, from Connecticut to West Texas, and I ate their hot dogs, savored their hospitality, and told them how much I cherished them. There was jubilation in my shop as the minors soared in popularity during my time in office." That's something that I think is that's the heartbeat of everything in this institution that is minor league baseball. And for the first 50 years of its existence, 40 years or so, minor league baseball was this weird kind of wild west of teams that just operated independently, and every once in a while a major league scout would blow through town and spot a Walter Johnson or somebody who would later turn into a legend who came from a place you've never heard of, a Grover Cleveland Alexander from St. Paul, Nebraska, the guys that turned into legends. That was the weird early years of minor league baseball, where every town had a team, and they loved the teams, and they turned out for the teams, and guys who grew up in the middle of nowhere had a chance to be something. And then it became something organized, and Branch Rickey came along and developed the St. Louis Cardinals system into something that was more formulaic and something that was more institutionalized and contained inside a major league organization. And then he spotted Jackie Robinson and made him a member of a minor league club before he broke the color line with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And then the minor leagues went through periods of boom and bust, and then Bull Durham came along, and 10 years later we embarked on this glory era in which ballparks sprang up like wildflowers across the country, and that has led us largely into where we are right now. And minor league baseball is a tremendously valued and healthy institution, and it is a beautiful tapestry of everything that we love, not only about this sport, but about, I think, our society at large on our best days, and who we are, and the fact that you can go to a ballpark and share that experience with people who you don't share many other life experiences with, but you love being in the stadium and having that day or that night together, and eating something obscenely unhealthy for you, and getting an autograph from a player who you don't know the name of but may be somebody big someday. Those are the beautiful things about minor league baseball, and not having those leaves such a void right now. And it has been really neat over the last few days, especially to hear from so many people that we know and love, and who know and love us, on what they value and cherish about the minor leagues. We'll hear from Benjamin Hill coming up here in a little bit about ways that you can support your local minor league team. We urge you to do that. We are in a moment right now of organizing for so many big things in society, and maybe people who will listen to this will view the minor league baseball struggle as something that they want to get in and support as well. And we encourage you to do that, to contact teams and to buy merchandise and to help out in ways that you can. It's not going to be easy. Getting to 2021 is not going to be easy in every way, it feels like right now. But we're still all in this together. and wear your mask and wash your hands and keep your distance and do what you can to help beat back a pandemic that is somehow started to blast its way through places that are being ignorant of those facts yet again. But we all have to do what we can to get ourselves over the line. And unfortunately, some of our institutions won't be able to join us fully until then. And minor league baseball, at least for its 2020 season, is one of those. And that's really a very sobering reminder of what we've lost this year.
Yeah. I don't know what there is to add other than the good thing is about minor league baseball, and I've said this to everybody who's asked me about what is the next step. What do you guys do next, and what happens to minor league baseball next, and that obviously for anybody who knows about the PBA negotiations, there's lots to follow there, and lots still to come about what is next for the minor leagues. But you heard Tyler talk about it. You heard me talk about it. You've heard Ben talk about it for years now, how big and expansive the minor leagues is. There are so many stories to tell here. There are so many communities that get touched. There are so many players. I'm a prospect writer. There are so many players that are going to play in the 60-man player pools that we talked about last week, or play in the majors this year, or are preparing to play again in 2021. There are so many stories that the minor leagues have brought us. That's a strength of the minor leagues. We're not going anywhere. We're still going to be here every week. We've made it this far in a season, quote unquote, without baseball. We're not going anywhere. The minor leagues as a whole isn't going anywhere, and we can't wait to bring you what's next in the joy that minor league baseball will continually bring to this sport and to this country and globally as well.
We have a lot coming up for you on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show, and soon we'll hear from Benjamin Hill. Then we are going to hear from a lot of different voices, dating back almost 4 months now, as difficult as that is to believe. We've been having top prospects on the show from coast to coast, all over the place, and hearing their favorite minor league memories. And so we'll get a chance to hear from all of those guys who have joined us over the last few months, from Christian Robinson, the Arizona Diamondbacks organization, who was the first one to join us. That was all the way back on March 18th, when still so much was unknown, and there were some people who were still out hoping, well, maybe this will only be a couple weeks that we'll be without some sense of normalcy. And that was March 18th, like I said. Adley Rutschman and Bobby Witt Jr. joined us over the last couple of weeks. We'll hear from them. We'll hear from Tyler Stevenson. We'll hear from Chris Bubich. We'll hear from Josiah Gray and Nick Heath. A lot of really great voices across the minor league landscape on what they value about their minor league experiences so far in their lives. We will also hear from the staff of MILB.com. We got a chance to check in with our writers, many of whom you have heard, all of whom you've heard on the show in recent weeks and months. Got their favorite minor league memories. And on the other side, when we say goodbye to you, Sam and I will give you ours as well, which I don't know if we discussed, but I just dropped here. So, Sam, start thinking of your favorite minor league memory.
I'm going to be real stumped now. This is a real difficult decision that you just placed in front of me.
We got a lot coming up for you on the show today. So without further ado, we will talk with our good buddy and our minor league statesman, the man himself, Benjamin Hill, who joins the show next.
As an official partner of Minor League Baseball, Nationwide is here from life's first pitch to the seventh inning stretch. Whether you're looking for protection for your house, car, pet, or small business, Nationwide offers a wide range of products and support to make sure you're getting the right coverage for your specific needs. Visit nationwide.com for more information on how we can help take care of what you have today and plan for what's ahead. Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company, Columbus, Ohio.
One of these weeks, I'm going to make a pie chart that shows the time that Sam and Ben and I spend talking before we hit record on the actual segment versus the time that we actually record the segment. Because I think over the last 4 months, it's been like 90-10. We talk for like 45 minutes before we start recording, and then we do a very fun and good interview. But we have a lot of things that we discuss from week to week, which is a good thing. And we bring on Benjamin Hill to say hello to all of you, even though we've been talking for quite some time already. Hi, Ben.
Hey, Tyler. Hey, Sam. Yeah, we just had our segment before the segment, as we do every week. And, yeah, we're going to start a subscription service where you can get this
the show before the show premium.
Content. Yeah, premium. So we're thinking maybe $39.95 a month. We're working it out. But you can have exclusive access to our unfettered, uncensored conversation.
And believe us, it's spicy. You will enjoy it.
It is. It is. It is super spicy. The Scoville levels are off the charts.
I was going to say, I think that price point is a little low. I think the price point should be my yearly salary. If you want to pay me my yearly salary, we will release all the tapes. But until then...
The good news is I make sure to delete all of them every week as soon as we get done recording. So there's no incriminating evidence of any of us talking about the fact that maybe we don't actually like hot dogs at ball games. Maybe that's a spicy take that some of us.
How dare you? That was supposed to be secret. How dare you?
What part of off the record don't you understand?
Oh man, well it's obviously a very tough week, and we've kind of thrown the rule book out for this week, and Ben is a guy who feels this, I think, to a different weight than even some of the rest of us, because Ben has visited every single minor league ballpark in this country, and dozens of ones that are no longer in use, and has been the face of MILB.com basically since at least since the inception of his job, if not since the inception of the site. And this is tough. And Ben, you posted a really heartfelt video on Twitter yesterday, kind of giving people some of your thoughts. It hasn't been yet 24 hours since the official announcement that the season was canceled, but just take us through, where you are right now and some of the feedback that you got from posting your thoughts on social media yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday it was in a way good having the season canceled, just because for quite a long time now, we've been very much, it seemed like that was going to happen, a foregone conclusion. It was just waiting for, the other shoe to drop for it to become official. So there was a kind of cathartic element to yesterday among myself, and I'm sure a lot of people, fans, front office, players, just to feel like, okay, it's official. And I think there was a lot of outpouring of emotion because of that. And even though I had been proceeding for quite some time, basically knowing there wasn't going to be a season, it still hit me pretty hard. And, I started to try to put together a Twitter thread on my thoughts, and that led to a video, hey, at Ben's Biz, check it out, where I kind of made my own statement. And, I tried to, I spoke from the heart, and, it wasn't scripted, but I tried to strike a balance between, recognizing how difficult this was, and, the tough situation that a lot of teams are in, and some don't even know if they'll come back in any way, shape, or form in 2021, given all the uncertainty. And I don't want to ever seem like I'm just, rah, rah, rah with while ignoring how tough things are. But I also did want to stress, and, I really believe this, and it's something I said last night, that, being in minor league baseball, and I'm sure it's true for you guys as well, it's a labor of love, and we all love this world. So that's where my optimism comes from, is the sense that if you're a minor league fan, if you work in minor league baseball, if you write about it, read about it, you love it, and that love is not going to go anywhere. So even in these tough times, I just think there's so many people nationwide that love minor league baseball, and even though it might return in a different way, it will return because there's too many who love it, for it to not return. So that's what I'm trying to hang my hat on right now. Love will find a way. Love is the answer. Love, love, love. All the cliches.
And Ben, I don't know how many discussions you've had so far with other people across the minor league community. Obviously, you're very well tapped into that. But, for such a decision that we all knew was likely coming, and eventually it was like a Band-Aid. That's what I like to compare it to. It got ripped off. It's going to hurt for a little while, but we knew it had to happen. In your discussions with front office members or people across the minor league community, what is the reaction out there to finally knowing that the season's canceled and finally being able to pivot towards other activities, much of which we've already talked about on this podcast in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it's going to result in a lot of work to do right now as it all becomes official. And of course, now you have to make, very real decisions and very real transactions based on, refunds and sponsorship agreements and all that. A lot of this won't be easy, but at least with this, the announcements out there, you can deal with these things as reality and not have to publicly say, well, we don't know, we're in wait and see mode. So it really does, in a real and tangible way, allow teams to move forward. Unfortunately, so many of these teams are moving forward with, much smaller staffs, and that's been a tough thing. And even me right now, in contacting a team or thinking I'm going to do an article, I've got to double check in cases to see who's still even working for the team. That's rough. But for the people who are still there, it does allow them to plan for 2021. Well, in most cases, planned for 2021, and that is a relief. And I was talking to a promotions director yesterday who was like, I would imagine, speaking for a lot of other people in a similar job to him, is saying like, well, one good thing is that we basically have the 2021 promo schedule put together, because COVID did not hit during a good time for minor league teams, because they put all the same budget and resources into planning for 2020, and that's a huge outlay of expense. A lot of it you can't get back. But bobbleheads don't expire, giveaway items don't expire. These ideas, unless it was very timely, a sort of pop culture moment, these ideas don't expire. So I think if you look at your favorite team's 2020 promo schedule, you're going to see that when they come back. And I'd recommend not contacting them for bobbleheads. Teams don't need to get rid of their bobbleheads. They'll give them away once the ballpark opens again.
Ben, the creativity of minor league teams and front offices is not dissuaded by anything. And I know as of yesterday already, just within minutes after the official announcement, the Bowie Bay Sox had put out a tweet promoting shirts touting their undefeated 2020 season. When you talk to people about how they can generate interest and income and things to enable these teams to make it through, right now we would be just past the midway point of the minor league season. What sort of stuff do you hear? We've seen, ballparks hosting movie nights. There are some ballparks that are hosting high school baseball and stuff like that right now. What else do you hear from front offices about things they can do?
Yeah, obviously a lot of the specifics vary on the ballpark and often the region of the country in terms of the specific policies related to COVID-19. But I think a lot of people in minor league baseball were already saying, we're not just a baseball team. We try to the extent we can to be a year-round events company. And events can be tough to pull off in this environment, but I think there's just going to be more and more of an emphasis on that, and an emphasis that probably won't even lessen all that much even when baseball is back, of just finding creative ways to maximize the ballpark year-round to get as much revenue coming in as you can. So we'll continue to see those creative things happening at ballparks in all ways, shape, and form. Of course, we'll see those typical minor league baseball responses like Bowie's undefeated T-shirts. I think Rochester announced some of their own. The Salem Red Sox did as well. We'll see interesting things like that. And one thing, it just kind of popped into my head yesterday. When I was responding to the cancellation of the season, was support your local minor league baseball team. Hashtag support your local MILB team, and that is a little slogan I want to continue to get feedback on and keep coming back around to, because nothing can obviously replace the revenue that you get from bringing in thousands of people 70 times a year. But I think people who care about minor league baseball and want to see it succeed going forward and want to see it do as well as it can under these very difficult circumstances, really, we all need to be thinking proactively about how we can support your local minor league baseball team. And so that is something I will continue to kind of pursue, is, talking to teams, talking to fans, and of course, there's merch. Of course, there's attend an event if you can. But what are some other real, tangible, creative ways we can support minor league baseball when there is no games to be played? And that's an evolving question, but I think my job is always kind of involved being as positive as possible about the world I cover. And again, I don't ever want to feel like I have my head in the sand, but I want to emphasize that positivity and think about real things that people can do to support their teams. And we'll figure it out together, hopefully.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to ask about, was that hashtag. And you mentioned merch, and that's an easy way of doing it. And this is going to obviously be evolving as teams evolve. But right now, tangibly right now, as people are listening to this podcast, probably have their phones right next to them or nearby or near a laptop. What is a way beyond just buying 5 hats or something? What's a way you would think a fan out there could support their local team?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still kind of working on that right now, because if you can't get to the ballpark, because of COVID-19, what is that? I think in a lot of ways we have to look at it as almost in like a political sense of more of a, organizing behind this cause. And I think a lot of it is just, I think fans have to take on a more of a sort of a freelance marketing role for their teams, and just really continuing to spread the word on social media with people in their community. Say, like, this is an asset that we have that we really will miss if we lose it. So what can we do, as public citizens to create support for it? As I said, it's a work in process, but so little can be taken for granted right now that I think we got to think outside the box in so many ways.
Well, we all attempt to soldier on, and we do want to, of course, continue reminding people that we're going to keep bringing you all the best stuff that we can at MILB.com, and especially as Major League season gets closer and closer with so many top prospects on so many rosters. And Ben, the ability to go ahead obviously is weird right now, I think, for all of us, but we all have things that we're already working on and stuff that we've got in our minds for, what we want to write about next week or next month. What's some of the stuff that you've got coming up right now?
Yeah, well, I've been doing these league by league fun fact articles, frivolous stuff, but I do put a lot of time into them, and have the Midwest League that came out earlier this week, and 16-team league, lots of fun facts in there, and I'll keep doing that, for all the remaining leagues, South Atlantic League next week. I think putting together a story right now, again, pretty frivolous, but, about some of my favorite fireworks-related memories through my road trips, trying to kind of focus on some memorable moments I've had with seeing pyrotechnics at minor league ballparks. Of course, going forward, continue and compile and promote and write about the creative things that teams are doing, whether it's an event, whether it's things they're selling, whether it's initiatives they're creating. I'll continue to have that unabated, as we have been doing and as we'll continue to do, as we are in the midst of this seemingly endless but not actually endless off season. It, like all things, will come to an end.
Benjamin Hill, you can find on Twitter at BensBiz and at MILB.com/BensBiz as well. And thanks for all the heartfelt words and the video. If you haven't gotten a chance to watch Ben's video from yesterday, or from Tuesday, I should say, we're recording on Wednesday, go find that on his Twitter feed. And a tough week, but good to have you to talk to this week, and we'll get through it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Always good to talk to you guys as well. And I know we say it all the time, but thanks to everyone who continues to listen to this podcast and, who reads our work on MILB.com. Maybe it goes without saying, but it shouldn't. We should say it. Thank you very much to everyone who was a part of this.
Hey, before we go, I don't know if we've ever asked you this, and I know that you were included on the email that Sam sent around soliciting entries, but I feel like since you get your own weekly segment, we should provide you with the platform right now. But I feel like you would also have the toughest time naming this. We're asking everybody about their favorite minor league memory, and you've got such an encyclopedic wealth of minor league memories. Do you have one that stands out of, like, that's the classic minor league moment that I think of?
You're right. There are so many, and I've gotten variations of this question enough times that I'm sure I've talked about it on this podcast. But when I do kind of try to narrow down a favorite memory, I pick one that was, it is repeatable, but it's very hard to repeat, and it was so unique and anomalous. And that was, in 2016 during the national eclipse. Teams that were in the path of totality staged games with built-in eclipse delays. And one of those teams was the Columbia Fireflies in South Carolina. So I planned a road trip around the timing of the national eclipse and went to a Columbia Fireflies game that started in the early afternoon and had a built-in eclipse delay. The team gave out the special Eclipse viewing sunglasses. It was a sellout. There was something like over 9,000 people there. And to witness that in a communal environment at a ballpark, just seeing a totally normal South Atlantic League game playing out, and then to have this pause as the sky went entirely dark in this just crazily memorable way I'd never experienced an eclipse before, and just to hear the sounds of awe and like this hushed, feeling of just being awed by nature and being awed by what we were all experiencing in this minor league ballpark, and then have it get bright again, and then the game resumed like nothing had happened, and it was totally surreal, totally memorable, and to me was an example of the way a minor league ballpark can be a gathering place for really memorable events, and so that's one I always go to.
That is pretty awesome. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, guys.
Visit the MILB Fan Lounge, your destination for all things fun, home run derby, and test your minor league baseball knowledge with trivia on Tuesdays. Did we mention there will be exclusive prizes given out to one lucky fan each month? Visit MILBFanLounge.com today. Well, that theme is going to carry us through the rest of this week's episode of the Show Before the Show, talking with Ben about his favorite memory, and we're going to hear a lot of that from here on out in this episode. Sam and I have been so lucky over the last few months to catch up, as we noted a little while ago, with some of the top prospects across the game of baseball, and talking about what they've been doing since sports were put on hold and how much they miss baseball, and then getting to really visit a lot about their pro careers to this point and growing up in the game and all of it. It's been sort of strange and sort of difficult at times to have conversations with guys who are supposed to be right now in the heat of their professional love, their pursuit of their ultimate goal of reaching the major leagues and all that. And we're recording this the first few days in July, and difficult and weird to not be able to talk to guys about how their season is progressing and what they've been working on and the things they've accomplished so far this year. But on the flip side of that, even though it has been nearly 4 months of this, I feel like the interviews that we have done since the pandemic hit, since sports were put on hold and all of it, have been some of the deepest and most engaging and most thoughtful and most insightful interviews that we've done on this podcast ever, which the show dates back to 2015. And I know Sam and I both are really proud of the work that we've been able to do, and that's all because of these athletes who have come on and have opened up so much to us over the last few months with the way the world has been. And we were lucky enough to kick it off all the way back on March 18th with Christian Robinson, who is the top prospect in the Arizona Diamondbacks organization. Such an exciting young player in that system, a guy who told us about what it was like growing up playing baseball in the Bahamas and how much talent is coming out of there now. And we broached this topic first with Christian Robinson about his favorite minor league memory. And for him, it was one that dates back to the earliest days of his professional career.
Whew, my favorite minor league story or memory. That's a hard one. Oh, my first game, my first pro game in front of like a legitimate audience. You know what I mean? A legitimate crowd. It was in Missoula, 2018, a couple of years ago, and I remember it was a home game. It was my first game, and it was pretty crowded. It was like Friday night, so all the kids are out, and I just remember like the first play, like the first inning. I was really nervous. I was hoping like, I hope I don't miss a fly ball, or they hit a fly ball at me and I get a bad read or something like that. But there were 2 outs, and this guy hit a laser to Blaze and shortstop, Blaze Alexander. And I remember he just jumped up and caught it. And I just remember like the crowd just bursts of noise. The screams, the clapping. I just remember that reaction, and I was just like this is really football. Like, this is something different. So that was probably my favorite moment. Something that stuck with me ever since.
Rangers top prospect Josh Young joined us back in April, and even though he's only been in pro ball for just over a year, already had a funny minor league memory to share with us of the blooper variety.
I just can't help but laugh.
This is good.
I get to Hickory. And I get put in the locker. You just get in the locker. My locker mate is Matthew Watley, catcher. So I've seen this guy on Foul Pool Sports already for running after a foul ball, not seeing the net, tripping.
I've seen this video.
Falling into the net and bouncing off of it. and bouncing off of it. So that's my expectation of Whatley. So we're in Greenville playing the Red Sox team. I can't remember what they're called. But anyway, we're playing, and it's been a rough day. We're probably facing their ace. It's been a rough day to play for all of us. The umpire has a big zone. We're all getting frustrated, and Whatley strikes out looking. And so he's walking back to the dugout. He's got a few choice words for the umpire. And a reminder, he's catching that day too. So he's feeling like we're getting squeezed. And now their zone is huge. So he's got a lot of words for this umpire. He's walking away. He's not turning around, but he's talking, and he's talking loud. And he's not a quiet guy. He's loud. So he's saying stuff. Umpire's like, that's it. You're done. Like, you can't talk anymore. He's still talking in the dugout. He throws his bat up in the little bat rack. He's walking around doing his batting gloves, looking back at the umpire, still talking. Next thing you know, there's a pole, and his head hits the pole. He doesn't even see it coming. He just runs smack into the pole.
Oh, no.
And we're all sitting there. We're all sitting there trying to have his back. But the video ended up on foul pole again. But there's guys in the background, like, we couldn't contain ourselves with the amount of just laughter we had. Like, we're getting our butts beat, and our catcher just runs into a pole arguing. And let alone, as he's running into the pole, he got tossed. So not only is his day done, he's got a bruise on his eye, and he's got to live with just the embarrassment of running into the pole. It was by far the best moment of my summer.
Third-ranked Cincinnati Reds prospect Tyler Stevenson, a guy who we kept on the phone for about 40 minutes after this interview was over, described his favorite minor league memory, the type of moment that most of us can only dream about.
Ooh. Probably hitting a walk-off homer in Daytona. Just something every kid when they're younger dreams about hitting a walk-off homer, like bases loaded, bottom of the ninth, World Series Game 7. Every baseball kid has had that going through their mind at some point in the front yard or whatever. Obviously, it wasn't a grand slam. It was a solo home run, but still, that was fun. I remember hitting it and then thinking, I was like, that might go. And then it was just like, I don't know, once I think officially saw it was over, I just completely blacked out, and I don't know what happened after that in terms of once I hit home plate and bucket of water gets dumped on me, and it was awesome.
For Giants number 9 prospect Sean Jelly, it was all about bouncing back in his first full season.
Yeah, I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go with just kind of our season in San Jose last year. Like you guys said, I joined the team about a little bit later than this time last year. It was end of May, and I spent most of the year with them. And, in the middle of June, we were, I don't know how many games out of the playoffs and out of first place. And, we were struggling a little bit as each team does. And, by the end of the year, we had turned it around and made the playoffs. And, I wasn't able to be there for that. They had moved me to Richmond before that season ended and before the playoffs started. But just, seeing that, they had finished it off and made it to the playoffs was pretty awesome because, like I said, we were struggling right in the middle of it in June and early July. But just seeing that turnaround and watching them, San Jose made the playoffs. I saw that, and it was awesome. It was super cool, and it was fun to say that I was a part of that team that turned it around like that, and that's always going to be a top memory for me for sure.
Rockies number 4 prospect Ryan Vilade, a guy who comes from a baseball family, told us about his favorite minor league moment, one that dates all the way back to the first time he stepped in the box as a professional ball player.
My favorite memory has to be, at least so far, was my first professional at-bat. I was playing in Idaho Falls against the Royals farm system team. And my first at-bat, I hit a 2-2 home run. And so my first at-bat, I hit a home run of my pro career. That was a pretty special moment. When I hit it, I didn't even feel the ball come off my bat. As soon as I hit, I put my head down and just started sprinting as hard as I could because it was more of a line drive home run. And I remember I didn't even know where the ball went, but I saw the umpire signal as a home run. I just remember yelling around second base. Talk about an exciting way to start a career. I know there's a lot of guys that, their first big league hit is a homer, and my first pro at bat was a homer. I can't imagine, starting my career like that. So that was definitely a very special moment for me, and definitely a favorite memory for me. Going back to whenever I was a kid in the minors, one of my favorite memories was just being able to see one guy who I'm really close with is Elvis Andrus, and just being able to hang out with him and talk to him. And, he was 18, 19 years old when I first met him. So just being able to hang out with him, see how he went about his business as a young kid, and seeing him grow. And I think he's had over 10 years of the bigs now. My dad and him are still in touch every once in a while. And hopefully one day I'll get to play against him. I actually got to play against him this year in spring training, and we, kind of, give a little thumbs up to each other. So that was a really special moment for me, as a kid watching him grow up and then, sharing the field with him.
Royals number 6 prospect Kris Bubic led the minor leagues in strikeouts last season, but the moments he treasures most are one of his shortest outings of the year and 2 of his longest.
Ooh, favorite minor league moment. Couple things. I'd say I'll pick 2. Obviously, one is the Futures game. Obviously, when the season starts, I really had no expectation, and that wasn't even in my mind that I was even going to have a chance to go to something like that. So when I did, obviously it's a pretty surreal moment to be surrounded by guys that were the top prospects in the game and names that you're hearing every day, and guys that are going to be on big league rosters pretty soon, or if not already. And then obviously getting to enjoy the fanfare of kind of an all-star weekend and see what it's like. That was just a really cool experience. And then the moment I had it was in August, when I had the back-to-back complete games. As I mentioned, I've always struggled pitching deep into games because I've had high pitch counts. I was the king of 5 innings, 100 pitches in college, just probably because I had 2 pitches and people would just foul them off and I get deep counts. But being able to prove to myself that I could do that, let alone throw back-to-back complete games, which to this day I really don't know how I did that. I think I just had everything working those 2 back-to-back outings. But that's something I'll always kind of go back on. And if I'm having, a tough time on the mound or I feel myself out of sync, then I can always go back to those outings and kind of watch the video from that and see when I'm at my best.
Los Angeles Dodgers landed a gem when they traded for Josiah Gray from the Cincinnati Reds, who broke out last year and became his organization's pitcher of the year. And in a run through the postseason with Double-A Tulsa, the top moment of his minor league career stood out.
Man, I would say I have a lot, but I'll throw it back to Tulsa again. When we clinched to go to the championship series, we beat a really, really good Arkansas team with, honestly, they'll have 9+ big leaguers on that team eventually. We went into that series, and that whole year, the guys were telling me that Arkansas would beat them up, and we took them to 5 games and ended up winning on our home field a day game, and really hard-fought battle. And you could tell that both teams were really fighting tooth and nail to win this game. But once we won that game and clinched that to go to the championship series, that really was wow, kind of this is what it feels like to win. And I mean, it is Double-A baseball, but you try to enjoy it as much as you can. And that was probably the best moment in recent memory because of, we had a lot of guys from that started in Rancho and made it to Tulsa at the end of the year. I know I started in Great Lakes, made it to Tulsa. So you had a lot of guys that didn't start the year with the Tulsa team, but, they're all really important pieces to clinching that championship series. So that really is a really memorable moment for me. I wish we would have pulled it out against Amarillo there in Game 5, but, that was something I'll never forget because of how crazy and how tightly knit we were in trying to win all those games.
Mariners top prospect Jared Kelenic joined the show last month and discussed his move to Double-A Arkansas, which featured a ton of travel with family by his side.
My favorite minor league story would probably be when I got called up from high A to Double-A, because it was the third inning, and my manager said, "Hey man, pack up your stuff, you're going to Double-A." And my family, my dad and my brother actually flew in to come watch me play that night, and they were in the stands, and my mom was in the air on her way to the game. And I remember I called my dad down from the stands, told him that I was going to Double-A, and we, like I mentioned on it a little bit, but we had to drive 2.5 hours from San Jose to Modesto, pack up all my stuff in my home locker, then drive to my host family's house, pack up my entire thing at their house, my entire room at their house, then drive 2.5 hours back, and we ended up getting back to our hotel at, I want to say it was 1:30 in the morning, or 2, or something like that. Or I think it was about 1:30. And I had to hop on a flight at 6 o'clock the next morning and fly out to Springfield, Missouri to play in my first double-A game on 2.5 hours of sleep.
We had such a long and fascinating conversation with Nick Heath from the Kansas City Royals organization last month. And for Nick, it wasn't just one moment that has stood out throughout his minor league career. It's the same type of moment. He's just been lucky enough to have it happen several times already as a pro.
My favorite minor league memory. That's a really, really good question. I would say, I can't say memory, but I will say memories is each time I get called up, because sometimes I'll leave the park and I'm like, man, I'm doing it. I'm doing well. I'm doing good enough. I know I can go up there and compete. When's it going to happen for me? Am I going to go up there? Is it going to be the end of the road? Do I fizzle out in Double-A? Do I fizzle out in Triple-A? And then I get the call, I'm going to high. I get the call, I'm going to Double-A. I get the call, I'm going to Triple-A. And each time, man, I just stop. And I reflect on the couple seasons before in the journey, and just, man, I'm so thankful. I am so, so thankful that I get the opportunity to come out here and do what I love each day. So I'm not going to say that I have a favorite memory, but getting called up each time, it kind of just instills that in me that, look, man, you're this close. You got to push a little bit harder, be a little more solidified in your work, and just trust it, and trust that your ability is going to get you there. Your ability is going to keep you there, but you got to keep doing the work. So I think, yeah, my favorite memory is each level, each time I get called to say that I'm going to the next level. So I've got maybe 4 or 5 of those memories just locked in.
Marlins number 2 prospect, J.J. Bleday, hasn't been in the minors long, so his best memories, for now, are saved for off the field.
Favorite minor league moment? See, I I've only played, I think, 40 games in the minors, so I feel like I haven't really been there that often to develop a bunch of memories. But, favorite one. I don't know. I just say playing some intense ping pong games before and after some games. I'm talking intense. There's some good ping pong players in the Miami Marlins organization, I'll tell you that right now. You got Braxton Garrett, Humberto Mejia. You got some good quality talent in terms of ping pong on that squad. So that's probably what I remember most of the intense ping pong matches.
2019 first overall pick, Adley Rutschman, who we had a lengthy conversation with. It was a team moment that stood out to Adley as his favorite minor league moment from his first pro season.
I think Aberdeen, we had a game winner. I think it was bottom 9. We had a game winner, and it was basically 2 outs, runner on second, and we had a single to drive in the winning run. And we all kind of just stormed the field, took out the Gatorade, took out the water coolers, and just, dumped it on, the guy who hit it. And basically, it was just one of those cool moments that kind of brought me back to college, and just the excitement that everyone had for winning a game. It was a fun moment, and just to have that. After that, we actually, got on a bus and drove 9 hours to somewhere else. But it was an exciting time, and just kind of brought me back to those college days.
Royals 2019 first-rounder Bobby Witt Jr. was still getting used to the rigors of pro ball when he experienced his favorite minor league moment via a teammate and now close friend.
Favorite minor league moment is probably during instructional league this past year, and when my roommate was Eric Pena. It wasn't probably like my favorite, but I think the most enjoyable one, and just to kind of laugh back at it, was my roommate Eric Pena. He was a 16-year-old. He's a stud from Dominican Republic, and he hits a home run, and he's running around the bases, and he's so excited, this guy, and he's running, and he misses home plate. And so he was just, we were all just like, no way, what just happened? And he didn't really care or anything. It was an instructional league game, but we go back to the room and we're just cracking up. He goes, I can't believe I did that. We're just dying laughing. And just being around those guys like that I think it's been awesome just to be around the guys from Dominican, Venezuela, or wherever they're from, just to get into that cultural change. But that moment was just something I'll never forget, and just him being my roommate and us kind of going back, talking about it and laughing at it. And whenever, if you guys ever talk to Eric Pena, he's one of the Royals prospects, just ask him about the Chick-fil-A strawberry shakes. He loves it.
Okay, but here's my question about the homer. I know it was an instruct scheme, but did the team in the field appeal and get him out?
Yes, they actually did. That's what he was just he was in the dugout giving everyone high fives, and they appealed. They got out. He didn't really. It was just funny. It was just a moment that you kind of just look back at and laugh.
This is Josh Jackson saying hello to Sam and to Tyler, and I'm saying hello to all of you, the show before the show listeners out there on Radioland. And I want to tell you, if you let me, just a little bit about why I love minor league baseball. I love minor league baseball because there is just this feeling at the beginning of the night of just such potential. And that's true anytime you go to a baseball game, but in the minors it's magnified tremendously because you're watching, like 2 summers ago, you're watching Yordan Alvarez, you're watching Pete Alonso, and you know that most fans don't know their names yet, and gee, maybe tonight they're going to do something special, and you were there, and tonight, look, we've got Mackenzie Gore pitching, and he's supposed to turn into something special. Tonight could be a special night for these players, and this could be a special career for these players, and you know it's supposed to be as they move on to the big leagues and bigger ballparks and in bigger cities. But tonight it's a Tuesday, and it's a little bit rainy, and we're in Binghamton, and we're in Fresno, and we're in Lake Elsinore, and you know, there's only a few hundred of us, and it's just our thing. It's a special night for us, and there's just all this potential. Then, you know, the evening is winding on, and the innings start to tick by, and maybe our Yordan Alvarez, he hasn't done anything yet. He hit a couple ground balls and flew out. Maybe Mackenzie Gore was just so, and he's already out of the game, But you know what, maybe there's another guy who's having a big night, and he's somebody nobody's really talked about all that much yet, and now, all of a sudden, he's become one of your favorite guys to watch, and you're just as excited about him and his future, and to follow him as he goes through the levels and up to the big leagues as you are about those other guys. And then soon, you know, now it's starting to wind down. The night is coming to an end. It's suddenly the 8th inning, and you start to realize, wait, it's not so much the potential that you love. It's not really about wondering about what these guys are going to do in the future in some faraway city, and it's not even really the anticipation of what they're going to do over the next inning or the next at-bat. It's just about the time you spent at the ballpark tonight with your family and your friends, and maybe you made some new friends too, and it's just now, it's just tonight, being there, this fun you had, this fun you're having at this ballpark tonight. That's why I love minor league baseball.
Hey everyone, it's Kelsey Hennigan. There are so many special things to love about the minor leagues. My earliest baseball memories are from spending summers at Brevard County Manatees games. It's where I learned to love the game. And years later, when I got a job working for MLB.com, I realized just how large the minor league world really is. In my 6.5 years here, I enjoyed talking to players and sharing their stories on the road to the majors. And in the past couple of years, through social media, I've gotten the chance to interact with fans even more, and I continue to be awestruck by how dedicated they are. One of my favorite things about the minors, though, is the community. So many times I'll meet someone at a party or even the grocery store, and they'll tell me where they're from, and I'll respond with, "Oh, where the Dash play," or "Do you go to Drillers games?" And their eyes will light up. They're so happy to hear someone bring up such a special part of their childhood. It's truly a remarkable thing how many lives have been touched by the minor leagues. I look forward to minor league baseball returning in 2021, but until then, the community will be here.
Andrew Badafarano here, one of the writers at MILB.com. The thing that sticks out to me about minor league baseball is the passion from everyone involved. 2 years ago, I did a story in Lynchburg, Virginia, and the two broadcasters for the Winston-Salem Dash, Joe Weil and Jake Eisenberg, helped me out to do that story. And they were just so passionate about their jobs and the players they covered and just the stories that they told. It was just incredible to see how much they cared about their job, and I think it's just a microcosm of the people that work and follow minor league baseball, whether in the front office or they're in the concession stands or broadcasting or writing or following it. People are just so passionate about the game, and it's just one of those things that's always made me enjoy minor league baseball, and I cannot wait to see it come back when baseball does return.
My name is Michael Avalon. I'm an editorial producer with MinorLeagueBaseball.com. A lot of different memories for me throughout my years going to minor league games and experiencing the fun of minor league culture. But one that sticks out is being a kid growing up. I grew up in Hawaii, actually, and at that point in the mid-1980s, when I was 6-7 years old, we had the Hawaii Islanders, the Pirates AAA team in the Pacific Coast League. And I went to a bunch of games out there, not really knowing what or who I was seeing, just having fun with my dad and my younger brother. But there was one guy in particular who I did get a chance to see play. My father kept score. He still has a scorecard. Barry Bonds, back in 1986, right before he got called up to the Pittsburgh Pirates. So I didn't know who I was seeing at the time, didn't know what I was seeing at the time, but it was an interesting introduction to baseball for me, and great memories that I'll never forget.
What's up? It's Gerard Gilberto. Of the 1,000 things I love about the minors, I think missing the game has made me realize something that I kind of overlook a lot, and that's sort of the sense of community that the ballpark brings. It's corny, I know, but really no matter where you're at. Like, I have a oddly deep memory bank involving Keyspan Park, or MCU Park is what they call it now, and that's Brooklyn, which, like, the borough itself is one of the biggest cities in America, but you go there and it's like you're in a town with 10,000 people in it. And, you know, I've played high school games on that field, charity softball games on that field. I almost got in a fist fight on that field. I snuck beers in the dugout of that field. It's a weirdly deep connection that I have to a place that I got no business being in such a big city. But I stood next to a player for the national anthem as a little leaguer on that field. I watched my buddy drop a pen on Howard Johnson's head trying to get his autograph at that field. My grandmother threw out the first pitch at a game, from a wheelchair like 5 years ago. It's just a weird personal connection you have to a big franchise, but again, even with that and all that personal stuff and the regular distractions at a minor league game, I still love that the main event is and sort of always will be baseball. I mean, you take someplace big like Brooklyn or smaller town somewhere else, and that's what they want. It's baseball. It always will be baseball, and there always will be more baseball.
Hi, I'm Rob Terranova, and I've been with MILB.com since 2017. And my favorite thing about minor league baseball is the experience, the game experience, the fun. I remember my first minor league game. I was living in San Diego, and I had a chance to go cover the Lake Elsinore Storm, and I was just blown away by the crowd and the talent and how family-friendly everything is. And then the accessibility to the players as well. Here, guys, you're getting to meet the stars before the stars, and you can meet them after the game and take pictures and autographs, and it was just awesome. And I remember my first game as a fan. I was in Staten Island. It was a Friday night, and it was just an awesome game start to finish. Meet up with your buddies, have a few drinks. No one has to break the bank. And then afterwards, if it's a Friday night, you usually get a fireworks show, and it just all ties together. And I always tell people when they ask me, what is it about minor league baseball that's so great? And I say it's America's best kept secret. And that's usually met with an eye roll or a raise of the eyebrow, but it's the truth. It really is America's best kept secret. And I just hope that now that secret is out and that we can get back to the fun and the experience and really all the awesomeness that is minor league baseball in 2021. Stay safe.
Hey everyone, this is Katie Wu. You know, when I first took this job with MILB.com, I admittedly didn't really know much about the minor leagues, and that was a huge reason why I wanted to work here. You know, I wanted to submerge myself into a part of the game that I previously really didn't have much exposure in. I had no idea just how much minor league baseball would come to mean to me, not just in my career, but personally too. To me, MILB represents baseball to its core. It's, you know, the grassroots of the sport. It's the small town, family-friendly environment that baseball was really built to thrive on. And to me, it truly embodies all there is to love about the sport. But from a career perspective, the minor leagues have provided me with an opportunity to do what I love and what I really feel like is my purpose in life, and that is to tell stories. Minor league players will be the first to tell you that the grind in the minors is unparalleled to any other sport. And I've had the privilege to be able to express that, to write about that, to tell people that. You know, whether it's evaluating the overall progress of a top prospect or getting the call when a career journeyman finally gets his call up. It's hearing the bewilderment in a player's voice when he rips a 3 or sometimes even 4-homer game. Whether it's diving into the friendship of two teammates and the challenges they've overcome together as they grow through a team system, kind of understanding the mental health aspect of the sport and how it affects players and coaches alike. You know, there are just so many underlying storylines in the minors, and being able to tell even a small fraction of them and getting to engage with fans and knowing these players and coaches as people is something I will never take for granted. I've met some truly wonderful people in MILB, from some of the honestly best coworkers and colleagues at MILB.com. Seriously, you'd be so hard-pressed to find a more dedicated, kind, or just overall fun staff. I've met other writers and broadcasters and team personnel, and the one thing we all collectively have in common, really, is our passion for this sport. Minor League Baseball will be back, and we'll have a stronger appreciation for it when it does return. Obviously, the news this week was sad, and it's okay to be disappointed. But it also made me realize this. The minor leagues is a very special place to be, and I feel really lucky to be a part of it. So I'll see you guys opening night, which I already can't wait for. It's going to be one heck of a party.
Hey, this is Brian Stoltz from MILB.com. When trying to think of my favorite part about minor league baseball, it has to be the quirkiness of everything that goes on between 20-run games, milestones every night, 3 home runs, cycles, no-hitters, to the promotions that teams plan, every year. It's nice to see that Kevin from The Office is out throwing the first pitch and doing Kevin things, and it's just amazing that the promotions that keeps fans coming back and enjoying the experience, and it's just a great part of Americana and what makes the game so great.
Hey everyone, this is Joe Bloss. I'm one of the editorial producers at MILB.com. I think when I try to think about what one of my favorite things is about minor league baseball, it kind of has to do with the paradox of I guess what minor league baseball is, and that a lot of the people who work in it and around it and are fans of it, they love it so much, but the goal of it is always to leave. you know, if you're a player, a coach, a broadcaster, an athletic trainer, maybe a front office executive, you want to get out and you want to get to the major leagues. So even though you love it, the point is to leave. And as I've been around minor league baseball the last year and a half that I've worked here, and even before that as a fan, I think some of my favorite people that I've met in the games are the ones who've never left. So a few people that come to mind would be, the first is I went to Syracuse University, and the Syracuse Chiefs, now the Syracuse Mets, were only a few miles from campus, and I did a few stories for the school newspaper there. And Donnie Johnston was the press box manager at NBT Bank Stadium, and he was the nicest guy I've probably ever met. As soon as you walk in the press box, he'd ask you, do you want a hot dog? Do you want a soda? Can I get you a stats pack? You know, he'd chew your ear off for pretty much all game unless you asked him to step away so you could do some work. But basically, he made sure whatever you needed, you could get. And then more recently, in this job, someone that I've dealt with was Sean McCall, the Lake Elsinore Storm broadcaster. I think this year was going to be his 25th season with the Storm. And I talked to him for a story in the off season, and he was so knowledgeable, so kind, really could talk forever. And it's people like Sean and Donnie who have been in minor league baseball forever, know what it's about, and are really great ambassadors of the game that I think are some of my favorite people and favorite things about minor league baseball. Thanks for listening.
Hi there. This is Jordan Wolf, editorial producer for MILB.com. I've been a part of our operation here for about a year and a half now, and I have to say, this year and a half has been home to the most fun I've ever had working in journalism. I've interviewed hundreds of players over my time in the industry, including all-stars, Hall of Famers, and even a few of my childhood heroes. But while that was all good and fun, none of it quite compares to the feeling I get from interviewing a minor league ball player. Talking to a top prospect is obviously great and exciting, as it lets me briefly walk alongside them on their path to the majors. But when I get the chance to talk to a lesser touted or even an unranked guy, somebody who's fought tooth and nail for his way onto a roster, or somebody whose success is driven by their commitment to and passion for the game, I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to speak with them and tell their story. Hearing the excitement in their voice after what was probably the best game of their life brings a smile to my face, as is knowing that when I'm writing a story, I'm giving them a memory that they'll have for the rest of their lives. It hurts deeply knowing that I won't get the chance to tell as many of those stories this summer, but if there's any solace to be found here, it's knowing that minor league baseball will be back before we know it. And when it is, those stories will feel all that more special to all of us.
We will say goodbye here in a moment for this week's episode of the show before the show. One thing that I think we should continue to push to you is that we're not going anywhere. We'll be back next week. We'll be talking with prospects. We'll be leading you through the run-up to the Major League season and beyond. And obviously there is so much uncertainty in the world at large, and especially in the world of sports right now. We're going to be here for you, and our terrific staff is going to continue pushing out the best content in baseball media on MILB.com day after day and week after week. So don't fret. We're not saying goodbye to the podcast. We're not saying goodbye to you, but we're just signing off for this week. So don't worry about that. But we owe you some minor league memories, and Sam owes you a nationwide prospect fun fact.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with the nationwide prospect fun fact, and then I'll go back to the memories. But looking at the data from 2019, according to what I have, 4,669 players received at least one plate appearance in the minor leagues last year. 4,669. Then that's not counting pitchers, and I could get into that, and that's going to complicate the research a little bit. But that's a lot of plate appearances, obviously, that we're going to miss, but that's a lot of people who aren't going to be able to play at the minors. A lot of these guys are playing in the player pools, and they're going to get work elsewhere and whatever. But in terms of in a minor league stadium and stepping up to bat, kind of like what Moonlight Graham described in Field of Dreams. Looking out at the pitcher, trying to say, "Give me your best stuff, and I'll see what I can do." 4,669 guys got to do that last year. Nobody will this year. If you needed any other number or just fact to kind of drive that home, that's what we got this week. So just something to think about, something to wrap your mind around with what's being lost this year. But hopefully, we get close to 5,000 guys stepping up to the plate and getting at least one plate appearance next year. And we're back and talking about baseball, actual baseball, what's happening on the field again soon.
So we will wrap it up with this. We both have so many minor league memories to draw on. I thought it was cool that Ben was able to come up with one with all the experiences that he's had at minor league ballparks with minor league fans and teams and players and all of it. But Sam, when you are asked by people what it is that you love about minor league baseball, what's your favorite minor league memory?
Yeah, my favorite minor league memory, I'll keep it to one. And it's amazingly not Bronson Arroyo throwing a no-hitter for the Pawtucket Red Sox, which was really neat. And I think I wrote about that. But the one I cling to, and Tyler, you know this well, when you're working the night shift, when you're working minor league baseball on a busy day, and it feels like your head is spinning, and there's so many games going on, and we're trying to figure out what to write, what's most notable, which performance is worthy of a full story, which one we might put in a roundup, stuff like that. You get a little dulled to what is big, what is important, what seems special. And the amount of times that we've seen 2 homer games and just put it off to the side and well, it's not a 3-homer game, or this guy's not a top 100 prospect. It doesn't really matter. I remember going to one of my first Pawtucket games, and Michael Coleman, you probably don't know much about him. He played a little bit for the Yankees. He was a pretty big prospect at one point. He played a little bit for the Red Sox. He came back to the Red Sox at one point. But anyways, Michael Coleman hit 2 home runs, and I remember thinking, at the time I was like 9 or 10, this guy is awesome. He's the greatest power hitter I've ever seen live. The Sox need to call him up now. He needs to be the starting left fielder for the next decade. If this guy can hit 2 home runs in a game, this guy is special. That is happening every day in minor league baseball. And when we write about games, we're following games, we're watching on MILB TV, what have you. I try to remember that and remember that there's some kid in that audience. Maybe it's on a school day or, where all the kids come in, and education day, or maybe it's a regular Sunday, or maybe it's a Tuesday night and his mom or dad brought him to the game because he got a good report card, or she, don't mean to just say he and use that pronoun. What they're going to take away from that game might help them get closer to the game. It might be the memory that sticks with them for decades on. I'm now 30 years old. That game was 20 years ago with Michael Coleman. I still remember the second homer he hit and it going to left and just thinking wow, 2 home runs in a game is insane. If you're somebody like me, it literally might help start your career. It might be the game in which you really fall in love with baseball and the minors in general. So that's what I cling to in this job, is knowing that every day is the potential for something special, and every day something special does happen in the minor leagues. We don't know where. We don't know if it's going to be in Portland, if it's going to be in Lake Elsinore, if it's going to be in Palm Beach, if it's going to be in Wisconsin, Great Lakes, whatever. But every day is the potential for something special. And, I cling to my special memories, and hopefully a lot of you at home have something similar, and this is making you think of the exact same thing. But Tyler, you've experienced it from all over, from a writing perspective, from a broadcasting perspective, from a fan perspective. So what minor league memories do you cling to? Yeah, I mean, there really are so many of them. You heard so many of our guests in the segment with our player interviews, and so many guys say, "Oh man, how do I just pick one?" That's a really good question, and that's I'm very much in that boat too. I know, I've got minor league memories that go all the way back to when I was little, before Denver had a major league franchise, the now Wichita Wind Surge, formerly the New Orleans Baby Cakes, formerly the New Orleans Zephyrs, were previously the Denver Zephyrs, and that was the first baseball that I ever really went to, and that was the story that I submitted. We did a story for the site of minor league, MILB.com, writers' favorite memories, and
the story that I submitted was remembering watching fireworks at Old Mile High Stadium when, it's a AAA baseball game that would get 60, 70,000 people there because the fireworks show was so good every year. And they were playing in an NFL stadium, which is such a weird situation anyway. But since I started broadcasting and being around players and front offices and all that kind of stuff all the way back in 2009, and then starting here at MILB.com in 2014, I've had so many different types of experiences and stories. And the thing that always speaks most to me is the idea and the reality that we as broadcasters or as reporters or as front office members are lucky enough to be conduits to the game that people love, and especially when it's a family thing. And I never forgot the emails that I would get when I was a broadcaster from players' families that would say, you help us feel so much closer to our son because we get to tune in and listen. And this is back before the days of MILB.TV, at least at the Class A advanced level, when I was in Myrtle Beach, and Altoona when I was in AA, we had MILB TV. But one of my favorite memories is we had an outfielder. Well, he was kind of an everything guy, but an infielder / outfielder in the Atlanta organization named Cole Miles. And Cole was a Utah kid and was just one of the nicest guys that you would ever meet, but also rarely talked. He was just a really reserved kind of dude, and he ended up playing baseball in the Atlanta organization for, I think, 5 seasons, 06 to 2010-ish. But he was with us through 2009 and the bulk of the 2010 season, and just remember always hearing from Cole's family, always hearing from Cole's parents. And we had a running gag in 2009 on the broadcast, me and a broadcast partner of mine and anybody else who would come in to the booth. I find Laffy Taffy jokes, like terrible dad jokes, to be hilarious. And so we had a gag for a while where somebody would read a Laffy Taffy joke on the radio and I would just bust out laughing. So this is probably like midway through the season, July, I want to say, and one of our interns comes into the booth, and it's a little while before first pitch, and we hadn't gone on for the pregame show or anything yet, and says, "Hey, there's a woman outside that's looking for you," and I was like, well, "That's kind of weird." So I walk outside, and there's a lady standing there holding a grocery bag. And she says, "Hey, are you Tyler?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "I'm Cole Miles' mom." And I was like, "Oh, hey, it's so great to meet you." They had emailed, and we'd give shout outs on the radio for players' families, so we knew we were listening and all that kind of stuff. And she just, I just really wanted to thank you guys for everything you do for us, and and helping us to feel so close to Cole. And Cole had a childhood friend named Braden Schlehuber who was also in the Atlanta system, and they played together, I think, in 2010 on that Myrtle Beach team that I worked for. And before she leaves, she says, "I also brought you something." I was like, well, what is this? And she reaches into the grocery bag and she pulls out these 2 giant bags of Laffy Taffy. And I hate Laffy Taffy, but I love Laffy Taffy jokes. And it was, I walked back in and sat down in the booth and probably started crying from how much it moved me. But just to feel like we get to be a little snippet in people's stories, since the writing side, I have always been proudest of a story that I wrote for the site probably 4 years ago now about a brief stint in a professional organization for a pitcher named Steve Neymark, who was drafted by the Houston Astros in the 40th round in 2015. Out of Angelo State, which was a junior college. And Steve had not had an easy life or an easy road to get to pro ball. He was set to go play college ball out of high school, at a school in Arizona. He's from Tucson. Basically, I think 2 or 3 weeks before Steve was supposed to go to campus, there was a change in the staff. They brought in a new coaching staff. They called him and said, "You're not in our plans. We can't give you a scholarship. We can't give you anything to come down here. You don't have a spot on the roster." So his plan was, all right, well, I'll go, just get a job for a year, and next year I'll enroll somewhere. And, 1 year turned into 2 years, and his father got really sick, and his brother had chronic health issues, and his mom was working multiple jobs to try to support the family. And so Steve was in a position where he couldn't really just put everything on hold and go play baseball. And he just got sucked into this life of a bunch of jobs that he didn't like and really difficult work, from working at fast food places to working at calling centers to, all these things that he really wasn't happy doing. And finally just decided that he had to give it all one more shot. He was working at a fast food restaurant, and a guy who he had played with in high school came through the drive-thru and said that he had just gotten signed by the Pirates and he was headed to spring training. And Steve kind of took that as his moment of like, I can't give up on this yet. And he was already, I think, 20 or 21 by that point, decided that he was going to go pitch in just a men's league. And was spotted there by a college scout, got signed to a junior college, ended up going to a Division II school. I think I said that the school that he was drafted from, Angelo State, was a junior college. It's not. It's a D2 school. He got drafted there and ended up in his one season in the Astros organization pitching at 4 different levels, putting up an ERA of 1.47. He got to Class A Advanced, where he put up a 2.08 ERA and a couple of appearances in the California League that year, and just one of those stories that is so perfectly minor league. And it didn't last longer than one season for Steve, but I know I think he ended up going back to school, getting a degree, and was working, last I heard from him, with an athletic supply company of some kind, and was really happy with his job and with his work and all that. But those are the things that when we get to tell stories and we get to be part of people's lives, nothing compares to that. We're not supposed to be the story, which is probably kind of weird to hear from a guy who is a broadcaster and hosts multiple podcasts and is really loudly, annoyingly outspoken on social media and all that. But we're not. We're here to tell stories, not to be stories. And it's such a privilege for us to get to be that for people. And the minor leagues provide so many beautiful stories and so many unlikely stories and so many diverse stories of guys who come from backgrounds that you would never expect, putting them into professional baseball in the United States, and they all end up, in this melting pot that is a professional baseball clubhouse that is not a perfect institution, but has the ability to bring us toward a more perfect institution. From the guys who are on the field to the men and women in front offices and, umpires and trainers and support staff and coaches and managers and all of it. It's a very incredible world to be a part of. And like any family, it can drive you insane sometimes. But ultimately, the love that we feel for minor league baseball supersedes everything. And it's difficult to be living in a world where we're not going to have it this year. But as so many people have said, that's going to make it so much sweeter next year when we do see that first pitch thrown in a minor league stadium.
I want to go back to what you said in the first segment, and we can end it there. But you said something along the lines of minor league baseball reminds us of who we are on our best days, and everything you went through there pretty much sums all that up and fits neatly within that package. But when we do get back in April of 2021, assuming everybody's safe, assuming we're in a place where we can all gather again and enjoy the game, those will be our best days. Yeah,
wholeheartedly agree. And as Ben said last segment, as I know Sam and I have said throughout the quarantine era and the pandemic and the protests and all of it, we all cherish and value and love you for your support of us so much. Sam ran the numbers last week, and in June we saw increased downloads and listenership compared to May, which was higher than April, which was higher than March. And to be honest, that baffles me, that we've been able to reach and continue reaching a wider and wider audience. And it means the world to us that we could be a couple of voices that hopefully bring a little bit of happiness and light into your life in an otherwise really dark time for a lot of us, that I cannot even begin to put into words what that means to us. And we thank you a million times over for all of your support and for being behind us through all of this, and we'll all get through it together. We're gonna be here continuing to push out stories and interviews and podcasts, and soon, within 3 weeks, hopefully we'll be talking about real baseball and talking about what prospects are doing on fields in places, and that'll feel really good. So with that, we're going to say goodbye this week in a similar way to how we said hello to you. There was C.A. Waller, my uncle, who is a blues musician in Lincoln, Nebraska, who gave us the intro. And the outro for this week is something with a kind of similar sound and a similar feel. And it's from a dude who is a somewhat legendary musician in his own right, and John Snodgrass, a guy who I've gotten to know over the last couple of years, a Colorado guy, and somebody who's been really good to me and to some projects that I've had over the last year or so, and just in general, all-around good dude and a huge baseball fan too. And John was kind enough to provide us with his own take on a classic that we all love. And so with that, we will wrap up this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. For Sam Dykstra, I'm Tyler Maun. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.